This week on Quality Digest Live, we chat with Rina Molari-Korgel of the Coordinate Metrology Society.
Plus, what goes into selecting new car colors? We're going to find out when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for March 18th, 2016. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher, Mike Richman. All right, we're going to start with a piece this week that initially appeared in the Health Affairs blog, titled New Healthcare Symposium, No Evidence That Insurance Market Consolidation Leads to Greater Innovation. Nice short headline there. We always like those. We linked out to the piece in Tuesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Well, now innovation is a topic that we talk about a lot here on the show. We talk about a lot about innovation. I mean, innovation is really key. It's really the core to long-term business success in creating new products and new services. But I should note before I jump into the story, the terms innovation and insurance are usually not residing in the same, even rather lengthy headline, for good reason. Innovation in insurance really isn't like innovation anywhere else, as I learned as I read through this.
So Mike, what is innovation in
rather
insurance?
complicated story? Well, for proof, consider, as this story did, the effect of the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, also known as Obamacare by some, which was probably the biggest change that health insurers have really ever seen in the basic way in which they operate. And of course, this spurred, as you can well imagine, as many of us know, a major consolidation of insurers within the marketplace, within those individual marketplaces across the nation. So what the ACA and the marketplaces that sprung from them have changed is the way that provider networks are formed. So-called narrow networks are really all the rage now. And in one measure quoted in the article, a narrow network is one in less than 70% of all local hospitals are considered to be in-network. That's what they consider to be a narrow network. The piece also states that according to a McKinsey survey, 92% of the U.S. population through these marketplaces had access to these narrow networks through their particular exchange. So almost everybody really has the choice of these narrow networks, really is what's going on here with the consolidation and with the prevalence now of these exchanges through the ACA. The specific innovation that the piece is trying to analyze and interpret within the framework, again, of consolidation, concerns the breadth of those networks. The question really is does consolidation help broaden the networks and thus present more choice to consumers? That's really the innovation they're trying to get to. Do consumers have more choice here, right? In terms of what kind of plans they can use and get through these networks, through these marketplaces. The findings were pretty clear that this is not the case. I mean, it makes sense. Consolidation does not lead to greater innovation within the context of product offerings. And there's some interesting charts. They do some statistical analysis of this, looking at this question about what's offered in these various exchanges and how many people are using them. Now, I don't think you would find this surprising either. The article really makes it clear that innovation in the field is possible. However, it's likely that consolidation is not the mechanism that's going to drive that change. It's interesting. They really kind of painted this picture of insurance as not the most innovative and flexible industry in the world, but that it can be, that there's a need for it. The ACA has opened up the idea that you need to have more flexibility and some innovation in terms of what you offer to your customers, but the consolidation that the ACA has fostered through just basically fewer insurers being able to play in this space isn't really driving that kind of innovation. So,
which is true of
which is true of anything, right? I mean, consolidation generally doesn't, consolidation generally does not lead to more innovation in anything.
Right.
So, it's not surprising that this would be the case. I think the point of this was they were saying, well, we need to be innovative within the health insurance field. People need more choice. They need other options. So it needs to happen. Insurers understand it's happening. It needs to happen. But they're not really taking the opportunity to do it. And insurance is kind of a very old or hidebound industry. I mean, things like copays, premiums, deductibles. Those are terms that have been around forever. I mean, then they're still here.
I
So
wonder if there was innovation in the insurance industry, whether we would even notice it.
Wow,
That's really innovative.
Yeah, well, that's the point. I think that they know this, so hopefully we'll get some innovation in the future. But it's not going to happen through consolidation.
Somebody had some money to spend on a survey, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
This is actually kind of a techie show today, and this is the first of several technology-oriented stories that we're going to be talking about. This one has to do with robotics. Robots have become, so commonplace in, let's say, high-volume manufacturing that we come to believe that they're really necessary. And obviously, if you work in the auto industry, robots are all over the place. Certainly, they're really good for high-volume, repetitive tasks. In fact, they're excellent at repetitive, and that's kind of the reason they were brought in. You have like welding operations, certain assembly operations, where rather than have one person doing the same operation over and over, it just makes a lot of sense to have a robot which can do it faster, more repeatably, less variability, and that sort of thing. And so we've seen this growth of robotics over the years till they're pretty ubiquitous throughout high volume, low mix manufacturing. The problem is that across a lot of manufacturing sectors, this change, what I was talking about, high volume, low mix, has really been changing. We're starting very much so to be moving to high mix and low, or let's say lower volume, so there's a lot of changeover. And we're seeing this in the auto industry as well. So what we're really talking about is mass customization. We're talking about responding to a market for personalization. So with customization, the vogue now is that humans have value. In other words, with all this customization, robotics are starting to have create actually a bottleneck. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But you can imagine you have this repetitive task. Robots are programmed to do this repetitive task. And now you got to change the task because you're introducing some sort of customization, or you're switching over to another model. The robots aren't trained to do that. They have to be reprogrammed, all that. So this is kind of causing an issue. And some automakers, in particular Mercedes, have taken notice. So in a Bloomberg article this week, Mercedes boots robots from the production line. Authors Elizabeth Behrman and Christoph Rawald write that the German automaker is trying to woo customers with customization, offering options such as carbon fiber trim, heated and cooled cup holders.
Nice.
I love that.
Nice.
Cooled cup holders.
That is cool.
And get them 4 types of caps for the tire valves. Now, the authors quote Marcus Schaefer, Mercedes head of production, as saying, quotes, "Robots can't deal with the degree of individualization in the many variants that we have today. We're saving money and safeguarding our future by employing more people." Now, when you consider, this is a pretty big deal. When you consider that Mercedes' single-finger plant produces about 400,000 cars a year, and the automaker is looking to reduce the time needed to build a car from around 61 hours, I think is what it was in 2005, to 30 hours today, the idea of getting robots out of the mix is a little mind-boggling. I mean, you're still talking a lot of volume, 400,000 cars a year, and you're talking about building them twice as fast. So you wonder, well, how are you going to get any time savings by getting out of robots? And what Schaefer points out is that part of the problem is that the time of changeover for robots. I kind of touched on that earlier. So you have robots in several parts of your lines. It could be welding, painting, a lot of different operations. Now you're going to do a model changeover. Those robots all have to be reprogrammed and kind of retrained and tested and all that to make sure that they're ready for the next model line. And then you change the model again. And then you change the model again. Well, every time you change a model, Schaefer says, well, it's maybe a week to reprogram the model, get the line back up running. So you have a week of downtime on your line. That's a long time, as opposed to being able to re-gear skilled workers because they're humans. They train very quickly and they're already adapted to it. So they change over very quickly. He's talking a weekend versus a week for a changeover. So a lot of the savings come from that. But the other thing is they aren't really getting rid of robots. What they're and this has kind of got to read between the lines a bit. What they're getting rid of, or let's say tapering off a little bit, is the large walled off robots that you typically see. So if we've talked about this before, very often on a line when you have big industrial robots, they're walled off from humans because they can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And so you have these series operations. You got to do an operation with the robots, no humans, then you pass it to a human, then it passes back to a robot. There's some productivity issues related to that as well. So they're replacing them with smaller, safer, collaborative robots. And we've talked about collaborative robots before. Those are robots that can actually work next to humans. So you have a couple things going on. Fewer large-scale robots, more collaborative robots, and bringing more humans back into the mix to do what humans are really good at, which is to change very quickly and adapt. BMW and Volkswagen are also testing collaborative robots. But what this whole thing does, it's interesting, is, and this is kind of the thrust of the article, is you're seeing this move for more and more advanced robotics and more robots on the line, kind of the diminishing of the human workforce. And now maybe because of customization and a response to customer requirements for more options and more personalization, we're seeing the robots maybe taper off a little bit, be replaced by smaller robots, and bringing more skilled workers back into the production line, which I thought is kind of an interesting little
cool
turn of events.
Yeah. Well, you know, what strikes me is, I listen to you talk about this, is, you know, we have this argument a lot. I mean, here in the office, and I don't know if you've weighed in on it as much as others have, but I personally don't think that, you know, we talk about cognitive computing. I personally don't think that true machine intelligence is anywhere even remotely close, if it ever will happen. I mean, the complexity of the human brain to, as you say, adapt on the fly and bring in information and add to it and understand it in an emotional way. I don't think a machine's ever going to be able to do that. If it can, it's a long way off. So, I mean, yeah, when you think about this and you think about customization, you need a human brain to be able to look at something and figure it out. You can't, a human brain isn't programmed. The human brain understands and brings in and brings things to it that a machine can't do. I don't think we'll ever be able to do personally, but hey, who knows? Maybe we'll have truly you know, machine cognition at some point.
I could be a robot, you might not even know it.
That's right. There you go. All right, thanks, Dirk. All right, well, every month on this show, we're going to stay with the techie theme here for a little bit. Every month on this show, we bring you our CMSC Corner, and this is the place where we chat with the leading figures in the world of close tolerance, large volume, portable coordinate metrology systems. The go-to organization for industry professionals in this space, of course, is the Coordinate Metrology Society, and their annual conference, CMSC 2016, occurs this July in Nashville, Tennessee. Dirk and I are going to be there. We're proud to be media sponsor of the CMSC here at Quality Digest. Well, in this segment of CMSC Corner, we're going to be joined by Rina Molari-Korgel, Coordinate Metrology Society chairperson and also Senior Portable Metrology Applications Engineer for Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence. Rina, welcome to Quality Digest Live.
Hello, Mike. Hi, Dirk. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
It's great to listen to your article right before this about getting a more skilled worker on the factory floor. And that's what the CMSC conference is all about, is trying to educate our community.
Well, that's exactly right. Education is certainly CMSC's major focus, I think. And I kind of teased a little bit the conference in the opening, CMSC 2016 in Nashville this July. For those of us in the field, but maybe those who have never attended a CMSC, what do you think they're going to see this year? And maybe touch a little bit on the exhibit hall, measurement zone, education zone, et cetera.
Oh, great. Yes, the Coordinate Metrology Society, the Coordinate Metrology Systems Conference is a 5-day event that's held in a different location each year. This year, as Mike said, it's going to be held in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is in the southeast quadrant of Nashville. And at this conference, you can expect to find an exhibition hall that's going to be filled with about 90 booths containing the world's leading providers of metrology systems. This includes OEM hardware OEMs, metrology accessories, software developers, and metrology service providers. So in this one hall, an attendee can meet and greet with all the players of the portable metrology industry. Now, inside the exhibition hall, you'll find the measurement zone and education zone. And this has been the gem of the conference over the past few years. In the measurement zone, one can find perhaps even 3 zones included in there. This is an area where the attendees of the conference are encouraged to engage in, for example, a laser tracker competition. Okay, that was one of the highlight of the events last year. There's also another zone where attendees can just get hands-on to some of the hardware equipment that they may never get an opportunity to use. Articulated arms, laser trackers. I believe they even had a robot hooked up to a scanner, and they had a lot of other scanners available for people to come in, put their hands on. Of course, there are experts there to help guide them in the usage of this equipment also. So it's kind of a hands-on and education zone also. Now, in the education zone, we had an interesting area there where we had a quiz based on the Jeopardy game. And the questions were used to challenge the delegates' knowledge of metrology processes and all of the required knowledge that comes into play when you're taking the Level 1 CMS certification. So this was a well-received area of the education zone that was lots of fun and engaging for the community. We also have an e-learning zone where modules are used to cover the knowledge and understanding of metrology and measurement uncertainty and all the fundamental principles of dimensional measurement. These were given on tablets that were provided by NPL, National Physics Laboratory from the UK, using their learning management system. Also at the conference, I want to tell you about all the technical presentations. We have up to 20 to 25 presentations being given, typically given their top shelf white papers and applications that are given by industry experts from our community. And no other location can you find such a high level of authoritative information being provided by our members. So come on down and listen to our experts tell you about the projects that they have tackled, the challenges that they've overcome, and discuss their usage of portable metrology equipment. Also at the conference, I want to tell you about our Level 1 and Level 2 certification. At the conference, they're both being given. Level 1 is a proctored exam that deals with the base knowledge for a portable metrologist. Level 2 is more of a hands-on application, application of your knowledge of the portable metrology equipment. This year, the Level 1 will be given on the portable articulated arm. They are still working on the laser tracker certification, which will be available soon as a Level 2. Now, there is a lengthy application process for certification, so I encourage anybody who's interested to go ahead and get onto our website at www.cmsc.org and apply for your Level 1 or Level 2 certification. Also at the conference, you have plenty of opportunities for networking, to meet with our members of our society and our community, to just discuss your problems and engage with people from academia, industry. You'll meet managers, you'll meet floor-level application people, as well as our those in our exhibition hall, which are the developers of the equipment. So if you have any needs that aren't being met, you have those people right there on hand to talk to.
Well, Rina, that's a lot. That was a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff going on at that show.
You and I have been to the show many times over the last decade plus, and I'm telling you, what Rina's saying right there is the truth. There is a lot going on in the show, but there's a lot of great stuff going on in the show too that you really should be aware of if you're in this space. So definitely check it out. And Rina, I understand, we didn't touch on this, I understand that you have an interesting keynote speaker at the show this year. We actually don't have a drum roll here, but if I did, I would say drum roll please. The speaker this year, the keynote speaker is?
Dr. Ed Morris. Ed Morris is a professor at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and he's going to be presenting our keynote address on July 26th, that's Tuesday, at the Embassy Suites in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He'll be discussing, or the title of his keynote speech will be Forging the Future of Large-Scale Metrology. Now, Dr. Morris has been a professor of mechanical engineering at UNC Charlotte since 1999, and he's been pursuing research in both tolerancing and metrology. Dr. Morris has lots of experience, both in the field as as an application engineer before returning back to academia. So he has great hands-on experience with large-scale metrology systems. Now, the area of his specialty is dimensional metrology, it's coordinate measurement machines, and GD&T and statistical control. So Professor Morris is also a team member for the Precision Path Consortium for Large-Scale Manufacturing, along with Ron Hicks, who is the CMS Precision Path Chair for this NIST-funded event of Advanced Manufacturing Consortium.
And Rina, can you just interrupt
yes.
a little bit? Can you just tell us a little bit what the Precision Path is all about? Just kind of just briefly what that is for those of us who don't know.
Sure, thank you. Precision Path Consortium is a NIST-funded program for advanced manufacturing technology, and it brings together U.S. industry, academia, and government. Its team is being led by UNC Charlotte, along with the Coordinate Metrology Society, and it focuses on tackling the shared technology barriers to growth and advances in our manufacturing industry, particularly in large-scale manufacturing, broad-scale products. The United States has been deemed the leading in the world of large-scale products. So this consortium is trying to bring together all of the factors that we can then talk about and prioritize perhaps obstacles to keeping ourselves in the lead or making advancements in this field. So AmTech program did award 16 grants to universities and nonprofit organizations, with the Precision Path Consortium being one of them. Now, all of these consortiums, they're going to initiate technology road mapping of these activities, and they're going to identify, prioritize, and align research and development in targeted industry sectors. So in other words, we're trying to get our problems and industry and the development of hardware manufacturers of our products to get in line so that our needs are being met by the providers instead of having the providers guess what the industry needs are. So this is a way for all of these people to come together, backed by the US government and NIST, to keep the United States in the lead for large-scale manufacturing. So Dr. Morris will be talking about his role in large-scale education and large-scale metrology education of our community, as well as discussing this consortium, the Precision Path Consortium.
Rina, we're going to wrap it up here, but before I do, I want to just point out one other thing. You talked about the papers earlier, the white papers that are presented at the show each year, which are great. There's an important day coming up on March 25th. That's the extended deadline for the paper abstract submission. So what do people need to do if they're interested in submitting a paper at CMSC this year?
All right. Well, if you're interested in submitting a paper, an abstract, please get on our website at www.cmsc.org and go to our CMSC 2016 location, and there's an area there you can submit an abstract. Otherwise, Scott Sandwith and Daniel Sawyer, you can write to them at presentations@cmsc.org, and please submit an abstract. There are benefits for submitting an abstract. If your paper is selected, okay, you have the opportunity to present your topic to our community, which is basically all of the portable metrology specialists there in one location. Our executive committee will also waive your registration fee for the week, which right now is a $555 value. Also, if your paper is accepted, it will be overviewed by the peers in our community and our executive committee, and perhaps selected for publication in the prestigious journal of the CMSC. So I highly encourage all of you to submit your abstracts at www.cmsc.org, and we look forward to seeing you at our conference in July.
Well, Rina Molari-Korgel, thank you for joining us, giving us a nice update on what's going on with CMSC 2016. Again, www.cmsc.org is the place to go to check it all out. Rina, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you in July south of Nashville.
Will do. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dirk.
Okay. Talk to you then. Bye.
It's a great show. If you guys have never been to the CMSC and you are involved in large volume 3D measurement, this really is the only show of its kind in the United States. And
there's a lot going on. I mean,
and
we laughed
there
a
is
little
a
bit.
lot going on.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's all really interesting and very collegial atmosphere. There's vendors there and so forth. But the vibe is pretty much different. Anybody who's been to the CMSC will tell you it's a very different vibe than any trade show you've ever been to.
Exactly.
It's a great place to go to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we were talking about earlier on, one of our first articles was dealing with how customization has been kind of affecting what's going on in manufacturing in terms of robotics. But one of the oldest customizations that has been around since the beginning of time practically with, excuse me, with automakers is color. I mean, other than when it was like you can get any color you want as long as it's black.
That was what Henry Ford said, yeah.
With Henry Ford.
That's right.
Besides that, there's pretty much always been this choice where you can order a car or either directly on the lot or sometimes from the manufacturer in one of their palette of colors. But what a lot of people don't realize is how long it takes to come up with those colors. This is not just one of those deals where the designers look at what the hot new colors are. They go to the paint manufacturer and they say, hey, design us this color, and it goes on the next year's model. It literally can take 3 to 5 years to develop a new set of colors because it's very involved, particularly with today's colors that, pearlescence and metallics and all these just crazy, custom colors and special effects that you can get in paints. It takes a really long time to do this. Why is that? Well, Tim Mao explains in his article, why does it take so long to produce new car colors? And basically, what it comes down to is this very iterative process. A designer comes up with some color ideas, and it's based on what's popular in fashion and what seems to be trending. I mean, there's people who spend their whole lifetime just looking at what colors people are responding to at a particular time. Automakers do that as well. So then they got to start working with the paint manufacturer. Now they want, like I said, they may want pearlescence, they may want metallics, they may want all these really interesting finishes that they can come up with, let's say, on a computer. They send that to the paint manufacturer, and the paint manufacturer does their best job. Yeah. Now, by the way, remember, these aren't usually single, when you start to getting special effects, it usually isn't just a single coat of paint. It's, you have a base layer that's got some color, you may have a special effects layer, which may be pearlescence, then you've got clear coats and all that kind of stuff that go on. So this all has to be developed by the paint manufacturer. So they develop this paint, they send it to the automaker puts it on some test pieces of metal, they look at it, it's not quite right, they send it back to the paint manufacturer, you go back and forth for years. Finally, they get what they're looking for. That's awesome on that sample. Now it's got to go on a car, and that exact same color has to be on every single panel. Remember, a car isn't spray painted all at once. You paint the door panels, you got the bumpers, you got the frame. When these things come together, that door better exactly match that frame. If it doesn't, if it's just a shade off, it sticks out like a
sore thumb.
Sore door. So now you get into the part where, okay, now we've got to do both kind of a qualitative and quantitative analysis. This is what's called a buried lead, by the way, in journalism. All that just to lead up to, what am I talking about? I'm talking about measurement. I'm talking about color measurement. So there's a couple, to me this is really interesting stuff. There's a couple different things that go into place. Color is very subjective. So you need a human aspect first to kind of quantify, does this color really look like what I want it to look like in all sorts of different lighting conditions? And then also you've got a quantitative thing where I need to measure this on a shop floor and I want to make sure this panel matches the frame. So for the qualitative bit, you've got these really interesting light booths, sometimes the size of, let's say a microwave for looking at samples, until light booths that are size of a room where you can drive a car into it. And the color is incredibly the color of the light is very well controlled. And you can look at a car under moonlight, under fluorescent light, under incandescent light. What does it look like on a showroom floor? What does it look like outside? What does it look like at night on a well-lit street, right? And they want to know what this car looks like every single way. So they drive it into these booths, and with very well-controlled light, they look at it. Now the thing about it is, the same booth could be set up in Detroit, and in France, and in Japan. And designers there can look at samples in these booths, knowing that they're looking at exactly the same thing, because the lighting is that well controlled that if you're talking to a guy in Japan and you're looking at that same part in your booth in Detroit, you guys can talk reliably about what you're seeing. Okay, so that's kind of the qualitative, that's the human interpretation of what color looks like. Now you've got to measure this thing on the shop floor. So now that we've got, by the way, this article was written by somebody who works for X-Rite, who is obviously a color measurement company. So obviously he's kind of tilting this toward their products, but basically what you do have is handheld spectrophotometers, which are ways of measuring very unique devices that can measure color very accurately. In the past, all they had to do was measure flat colors. You know, it's red, it's blue, it's green. Fairly easy. When you start getting into the special effects, now you're into a whole nother thing. You got to measure color and try to interpret with an instrument what it looks like from different angles, right? And that's where these instruments have gotten just really sophisticated. So now, if you got a, pearlescent metallic flake red candy apple red car, you can measure the door panel, you can measure the frame. If the instrument says this is the exact same color, you can trust that exact same color and that it will look the same even to a human being looking at those panels from different angles under different lighting conditions. So to me, the measurement part of this is color is so important, and no more so than in the manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
So again, this is another one of those things where you've got this mix between humans and doing what humans do really well, which is, let's say, qualitative analysis of something. And then you've got machines that are really there for helping out and to kind of lending what the machine does really well, which is quantitative, to what the human does really well, which is qualitative, which is a lot like the Mercedes-Benz story.
It really brings it back together.
It really brings it back together.
This idea that you need both elements to get to the right answer that you need to do in order to test what's going on here.
So if you're interested in color, I'm sure that story was interesting.
Great. No, it was great. Really, it was a really interesting story by Tim Moore. Well, no, it's important.
Our products are gray.
Well, thanks, Dirk. Great stuff. All right, well, we're gonna go by the tweet of the week this week. We'll bring it to you next week because we're running a little late. But we want to just remind you before we go, we have a webinar for you next Monday the 21st.
That's right, we do.
And it's at a special time. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, so 1 hour early than they normally are if you go to our webinars.
And that's Dirk. You're doing that with SGS.
That's right. This is ISO 50001 roadmap to implementation. 50001, if you aren't familiar with it, is the ISO's energy management system.
Environmental management.
I think it's actually energy. Oh, okay. I think energy management. Well, they're actually related. Yeah. And it's based on ISO 9001. It is a management system. And again, that is next Monday, March 21st at 10 p.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. That's what I said. The other 10. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. It is 1 p.m., right?
1 p.m. Eastern time, that's right. So check it out. I believe we have a link in the player page right down there. Take a look at your email as well for more information. All right, that's our show. Thank you all for joining us. I want you to all have a great weekend. Come back next week, join us for another week of QDD, and we'll be back here next Friday with QDL. So have a great weekend. We'll see you then.
So at 11 p.m. Yeah.
Fire!